Hi, my name is Lori and I'm the Customer Success Lead at Delighttree. And I'm going to show you an example of the slide deck that I use with my customers throughout our high-touch onboarding. This is a weekly meeting that we have, and the template that I'm going to walk you through is an example of the slide deck that we use. Full disclosure, this slide deck that I'm going to show you is not the exact template that we use in our organization. We use a theme that includes our brand colors, brand logo, and brand images, but this does follow the exact format and the structure of our slide deck, so hopefully it'll be helpful. Let's get into it. Starting off with our title slide, I always include both our company logo and our customer's logo. I think that really sets a nice stage for our partnership early on in this relationship. And then that takes us into our next slide, which is the agenda. As a best practice, I recommend always reviewing the agenda slide with your customer as I'm going through the onboarding process with my customers and meeting with them once a week. I make sure that I double check that there's no additional topics that need to be covered. I find this is a really good time to talk about any challenges that they might be having. If there are product questions or training that needs to happen during this call, I tend to tackle that right away before going into the actual project, just to make sure that we cover those topics. And then I go into an overview of the project. Now at Delighttree, we use a phased approach. So we start off with a implementation with a single location, maybe a single department, some specific processes that are going to be used on our platform. So we tackle this first phase to kick off our project together. So going through the kickoff call, any information that I've been provided by sales, I create this project overview, and during an initial session with my customer, I make sure to validate that this slide is correct and meets their understanding as well and their expectations. And then we have a review of the goals. And this is also something that I put together based on the conversation that we had during the kickoff call and the pass down from sales. Now, it might be worth noting that for your operation, perhaps your goals are already tied in to the value prop that your customers sign in on and know going into it. For us at our organization, we do find that goals for each of our customers can slightly vary. So this does tend to be a really customized slide deck. And this is just a few examples of what a customer might say for us and some of the goals that we're working towards. So after I get a good understanding of what the customer's expectations are, I put it out on this slide and we review it together. I validate with them that I understand their goals correctly. And then this becomes a source of truth, as you will. Throughout our onboarding, I find myself often pointing back to this slide and ensuring that we are continuously focused on these goals and working towards reaching them. And then that'll take us to the timeline. We have milestones identified. Early on in the onboarding, this is also something that I make sure to validate with my customer to ensure that there are proper dates set up, that we have a hard, a firm ending date scheduled, that I'm meeting any requirements that they have, and also that it's realistic. I don't want to set up any timelines with my customer that they don't think are reasonable. So this becomes a really collaborative slide, and throughout the onboarding process is always something that we review and tends to be edited throughout the process. Next, we have a couple of slides that talk about the actual tasks that are going to be required to reach these identified milestones. So in this example that I'm using in this slide deck, we have the first step as account implementation. So we have some specific tasks that are going to be required, including the team member names, information about the team members so the credentials can be set up. And then we also have some manual processes that need to be digitized on the customized customer's account. We can also see I've added some progress bars. For us in our organization, we're using a project management tool, so I tend to get those percentages from that project management tool. In this slide, I'm using a Canva theme for this, for example purposes. And this is just an element there. So if you don't already have a theme that your design team or your marketing team has set up for your customer success organization, Canva is a great resource for you to get a good start on what a slide deck might be for your customers, for your customer meetings. Also PowerPoint has some great themes as well, and some design functionalities that could be useful. Next, we have the second step. Some additional tasks are outlined here. Now, I tried to be very conversational as I'm going through these steps. I want to make sure that everybody knows who is responsible for what. And sometimes I do include customer names if there are additional project leads who are helping out on the customer's organization who are a part of these calls, just making sure that we are all aligned on who is handling which tasks. We want to ensure that there's no confusion there. So as specific as you can be in these slides, I've found to be incredibly helpful. And then we go into user activity. This is also obviously going to vary greatly on your organization, how you have your data set up, and what kind of analytics you actually have access to. For us, we're using a third-party tool where we're able to actually export our customers' usage into an Excel, and then I'm able to put together graphs that way. And most importantly here, I'm trying to demonstrate to the customer where there might be bottlenecks. So if there are specific team members who were supposed to get onboarded maybe last week since our last call who still haven't logged into the app, I want to make sure that we're talking about that and addressing how we can move them forward. Do they need extra hand-holding, extra training? Maybe there's additional resources, or maybe they have a device issue. Anything like that, we want to make sure is discussed. And I find that having some kind of a reporting page is a great way to have that conversation and drive the project forward. Lastly, I have a thank you slide. This is a great time to talk about any questions that the customer might have, the customer's team might have, and also make sure that we're reviewing what is pending. If there are follow-ups that I have due to the customer, I make sure to review those at this time before we wrap up. And then I always like to confirm that we have that next meeting set. So if I have a weekly meeting scheduled every Wednesday, I want to reconfirm at the end of this call that that day and time still works for everybody, just to make sure that that there's no confusion about that. I will also say that moving forward in the project, as we start to end this first phase, I'll start to add additional slides to make sure that we're continuing the conversation about what's next. So if the customer is going to get additional value by adding another department into their account or additional processes into the account, I want to make sure that we're starting to have those conversations early and continuing to bring that value for our customers. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. I hope this has been helpful. Thank you so much for tuning in.